All right, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at a single source,
Okay.
which is a little different for us.
Yeah.
But it's this YouTube video called Speak Like a Manager, Top 10 Best Words and Sentences for Managers and Leaders.
Okay.
It's on this channel called Career Vids.
All right.
And, it's clearly aimed at like aspiring managers, people who want to
Yeah.
move up in the corporate world. But I have a hunch that maybe there's some advice in here that's kind of unexpectedly useful for all of us.
I think you're right.
Even if we're not like leading a team.
On the surface, it's easy to kind of write it off. It's just
True.
like another one of these like top 10 tips kind of things.
Right.
But actually, when you start to
Yeah.
peel back the layers, it really touches on some communication principles
Okay.
that are useful for any relationship, really.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Not even just a corporate setting.
The title itself, I gotta say,
Right.
is a little...
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. It doesn't exactly scream subtlety.
Yeah.
What caught your eye when you're going through this video?
So what really struck me was how these really simple phrases, they're presented as management tactics.
Okay.
They actually tap into these kind of deeper psychological needs
Okay.
that I think we all have, like the need for recognition, belonging, autonomy.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they kind of stumbled on these universal truths
Okay.
about human interaction almost by accident.
All right, so let's unpack some of these top 10 phrases.
Okay.
The first one, this video starts off with the importance of expressing appreciation.
Right.
They suggest managers say things like, I appreciate your hard work and dedication. Now, we all know that like a thank you can go a long way,
Yeah.
but is there more to it than just like being polite?
I think there's a lot more going on than meets the eye.
Okay.
You think about Daniel Pink's work on motivation.
Yeah.
He argues that people are driven by autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So when a manager expresses genuine appreciation,
Yeah.
they're not just being nice, they're actually acknowledging that employees' contribution to a larger purpose.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's not just about the words themselves. It's about what they represent, what they're actually communicating.
Exactly.
And I think that same principle applies outside of work, too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like a genuine expression of gratitude can...
You can really strengthen any relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, a family member, everyone wants to feel seen and valued.
Okay, so expressing appreciation, that taps into our need for purpose
Yeah.
and recognition.
Yeah.
What about the next point on the list here?
So the video talks about the importance of enthusiasm and support.
Okay.
It suggests managers say something like, I'm excited to be part of this team and looking forward to working with you.
Okay.
Now, this one's interesting because it could so easily come across as disingenuous.
Yeah, totally. You can imagine just like a
Right.
boss kind of like forcing that.
But if we look a little deeper,
Yeah.
it's really about a leader kind of setting the tone for the team,
Okay.
expressing genuine enthusiasm about the work, even if it's not the most glamorous project. That can actually be really contagious,
Okay.
and it can help to create a more positive
Yeah.
and collaborative environment.
But isn't there a risk of it coming across as like super insincere if you're like
Yeah, you're right.
forcing the enthusiasm?
It's all about authenticity.
Yeah.
I think forced enthusiasm is worse than no enthusiasm at all.
Yeah, I've had bosses who were clearly putting on a show.
Right.
And it had the opposite effect on me.
Yeah.
It made me trust them less.
But when a leader genuinely believes in the work
Okay.
and in the team's ability to succeed, that energy can be incredibly motivating.
It's like the difference between a coach who's just going through the motions
Right.
versus one who's really invested. You can feel that.
And that brings us to another point from the video, which is the importance of setting clear objectives.
Right.
The video suggests saying something like, let's set some clear objectives for the next quarter,
Okay.
which might sound like management jargon,
Yeah.
but it actually taps into this basic need that we all have for clarity and direction.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to know what we're working towards.
Right.
What's expected of us.
Exactly.
Whether it's like a work project or even just like planning a trip.
Yeah, or a creative project.
Yeah, you need that goal in mind.
It helps us stay focused and motivated.
Yeah.
Think about it in terms of psychology.
Okay.
When we have a clear goal, it creates a sense of anticipation. It activates our reward system.
Interesting.
So we're more likely to stay engaged and put in the effort
Makes sense.
when we know what we're striving for.
And it also helps to avoid those frustrating situations where you have, like, people working at cross purposes because they didn't.
Right, they don't have that shared understanding.
Yeah, they haven't talked enough.
Yeah, and it's so important for any kind of successful collaboration.
Oh, sure.
But even with clear objectives, projects can still kind of go off track. That's why the video's next point, I think, is so crucial.
Okay.
Which is checking in and showing genuine interest.
Okay.
They suggest asking things like, how is your week going? Or how is the project progressing? Now, these might seem like very basic questions.
Yeah.
But I think they serve a much deeper purpose.
I'm curious to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah.
I hadn't really considered it, but I think those kinds of check-ins can be very powerful, especially if they're done with that real intention.
Exactly. It's not just about monitoring progress.
Right.
It's about fostering open communication and building trust.
And that trust is so essential for any successful team.
Or any relationship.
Or any relationship. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when people feel comfortable communicating openly, they're more likely to, share their ideas, raise concerns, and ultimately just work together more effectively.
Yeah, and it creates that sense of psychological safety, which is so important for creativity and innovation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People are more likely to take risks and think outside the box when they know they're not going to be penalized for making a mistake.
All right, so we've talked about expressing appreciation, setting clear objectives, and checking in.
Yep.
What's next on this list?
So the video encourages managers to embrace collaborative problem solving.
Okay.
Suggesting they say something like, let's brainstorm solutions together.
Yeah.
This might seem like a no-brainer,
Okay.
but there's a lot more to it than just getting people in a room.
Okay. So on the one hand,
Right.
I love that idea of leveraging collective intelligence.
Right.
Diverse perspectives, you get all those ideas on the table.
Yeah.
But I've also been in brainstorming sessions that devolved into chaos or groupthink.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How do you make sure that collaborative problem solving actually works?
You've hit on a crucial point. It's not enough to just throw people together and expect magic to happen.
Right.
You need a few key ingredients.
Okay.
You need psychological safety,
Okay.
clear communication, and a willingness to challenge assumptions.
So it's not just about coming up with the ideas, it's about making sure there's space for those ideas.
Yeah, you need that environment where people feel comfortable
Yeah.
sharing their ideas, even if they're unconventional,
Yeah.
even if they go against the grain.
Yeah, even if it's like a stupid idea.
Right.
Sometimes those are the best ones.
Think about Google's research on high-performing teams.
Yeah.
One of their key findings was that psychological safety was the #1 factor
Wow.
in a team success.
Okay, so how does a manager actually create that sense of psychological safety?
Right.
Is it just something you tell people?
It's definitely not that simple.
Okay.
It's about modeling vulnerability, admitting when you don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
and actively encouraging diverse perspectives.
So if the leader is willing to show their own vulnerability, it kind of gives permission to everyone else
Exactly.
to do the same. And it creates that culture where it's okay to make mistakes,
Yeah.
challenge assumptions, and learn from each other.
So collaborative problem solving, more nuanced than it might seem.
Right. So the video suggests that managers should offer support directly,
Okay.
suggesting a phrase like, I'm here to support you. What do you need?
Okay.
And this goes beyond just being helpful.
Okay.
This speaks to, I think, a fundamental principle of effective leadership, which is empowerment.
So it's about giving people the resources they need to succeed,
Yes.
but also trusting them to figure things out.
It's about striking that balance
Okay.
between providing guidance
Yeah.
and fostering independence.
It's like teaching someone to ride a bike.
Yeah,
You hold on at first, but eventually you let go
exactly.
and let them find their balance.
It's about believing in people's potential
Yeah.
and giving them the space to grow. I love that analogy.
And speaking of growth,
Okay.
that leads perfectly into the next point in the video,
Okay.
which is the importance of clarity and transparency.
Right.
The video suggests managers be upfront about situation,
Okay.
saying things like, this is the situation. This might seem obvious,
Yeah.
but it's surprising how often leaders shy away from being direct.
I think that reluctance often comes from like a fear of creating anxiety or uncertainty.
Yeah.
But in my experience, a lack of communication is far more stressful than knowing what's going on,
Yes,
even if it's not good news.
absolutely. People can handle difficult information.
You're right.
What they can't handle is ambiguity.
Yeah.
The sense that information is being withheld.
That feeling that something is being hidden from you.
Clarity and transparency
Yeah.
builds trust,
Right.
even when the news is tough.
Yeah, it's about respecting people's intelligence, their ability to process information, even if it's challenging.
And it creates this kind of shared reality, which is so essential for effective problem solving and decision making. When everyone's working from the same set of facts, they're more likely to come to a shared understanding of the challenges and opportunities ahead.
This is really making me think about communication in a whole new light. Yeah. It's not just about the words. It's about the underlying intentions, the impact those words are going to have.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Effective communication is about so much more than just conveying information. It's about building relationships, fostering trust, and creating a sense of shared purpose.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from expressing appreciation to fostering collaboration, transparency. But I know there's more to uncover in this video.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
What other gems have you unearthed?
Well, the video also stresses the importance of planning and direction.
Okay.
Suggesting that managers clearly articulate the steps that the team will take. And again, while this is presented in a management context, I think it's a principle that has wide-ranging applications.
Yeah, I think we all crave that sense of direction in our lives, our careers, even when we're just planning a simple project.
Yeah, even just for the weekend. Having a roadmap, even if it's a flexible one, it helps us stay focused. Avoid getting lost in the weeds.
Yeah, helps you avoid that overwhelm.
Think about it in terms of cognitive psychology.
Okay.
Our brains are constantly bombarded with information. So having a plan helps us filter out the noise and prioritize our efforts.
So it's not about having every detail mapped out in advance. It's more about having that framework guide you.
And it also helps to reduce anxiety.
Okay.
Because we know that even if things don't go exactly according to plan, we have a general sense of direction.
And that sense of direction, I think, can be so empowering because it gives you that feeling of agency.
Yeah, you're not just reacting to events. You're proactively shaping your course.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the difference between drifting aimlessly in a boat
and
steering towards a specific destination.
I like that analogy.
Even if you encounter storms or rough waters along the way,
you've got that compass.
You've got that compass to help you stay the course.
All right, so planning and direction, that's about giving people that purpose and control. What's next?
The video gets a bit more philosophical with this next point.
Okay.
Shared values.
All right.
It suggests that managers say things like, don't forget our team values.
Okay.
And it goes on to list 5 specific values.
Okay.
Respect, welcoming ideas, honesty and integrity, accountability, and embracing change.
Yeah.
Now, these might sound like typical corporate buzzwords, but I think there's a deeper truth here.
Yeah, I think we're all drawn to groups and organizations that share our value. Whether it's a workplace or a social group or even a political movement.
Exactly. It creates that sense of belonging and shared purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not just about warm, fuzzy feelings.
Okay.
This actually has a really tangible impact on performance.
How so?
When people feel aligned with the values of their team or organization, they're more likely to be engaged, motivated, productive.
It's like rowing a boat.
Yeah.
Where everyone's pulling in the same direction.
Exactly.
Instead of against each other.
It's about creating that synergy. Where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
And it also helps with conflict resolution too, right?
Yeah.
When you have that shared understanding of what you all value.
When there's that disagreement, it's much easier to navigate.
Because you have those guiding principles.
Yeah, you have those guiding principles.
To help you make decisions.
To help you make decisions, especially when things get tough.
So shared values are about creating that sense of belonging, purpose, and stability.
Yeah.
What's the final piece of wisdom from this video?
The video ends on a high note by encouraging managers to celebrate success.
Okay.
Suggesting phrases like, let's celebrate.
I love this one.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind that you forget to stop and recognize.
Acknowledge the wins.
Yeah, both individual and collective.
And yet celebrating success is so important. For morale and motivation.
Yeah, it's like giving someone a high five after they score a goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the score, but it makes them want to score again.
Exactly.
It reinforces that positive behavior.
It creates that sense of camaraderie and shared accomplishment.
It's amazing how this YouTube video that started off with like pretty basic management tips has led us to these really profound insights.
Right?
About like human motivation.
About teamwork and
shared values.
Yeah, the power of shared values.
It just goes to show that you can find valuable insights in the most unexpected places.
Absolutely.
And that effective communication principles really are universal.
I think so.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've talked about appreciation, clear objectives, checking in, collaborative problem solving, support, transparency, planning, shared values, and celebrating success.
It's a lot.
But I have a feeling
it is.
There's even more to uncover.
I think so.
In this surprisingly insightful YouTube video.
Yeah, there's definitely more to explore.
We'll be right back after a quick break to continue our deep dive into Speak Like a Manager.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Speak Like a Manager.
You know, as we were going through those first few points, I was struck by how there's this common thread running through all of them.
Okay.
Which is this idea of creating a positive and supportive environment.
Yeah.
It's not just about like giving orders or delegating tasks.
Right.
It's about fostering a culture where people feel valued and respected and empowered to do their best work.
That's such a key insight. And it ties back to what we were discussing earlier about Daniel Pink's work on motivation. When people feel a sense of autonomy, mastery, and purpose, they're inherently more motivated and engaged.
It's like that old saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Right.
People are more likely to respond to positive reinforcement than to fear or intimidation.
And it's not just about being nice or avoiding conflict. It's about creating that culture of psychological safety. Where people feel comfortable taking risks, sharing their ideas, and learning from their mistakes.
So it's about finding that balance between setting high expectations, but also giving people the support they need to meet those expectations.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important point that the video touches on, which is the importance of clear and respectful communication.
You know, it's funny. We often think of communication as just like conveying information, but there's so much more to it than that.
Oh, absolutely. It's about tone, body language, empathy. The ability to tailor your message to your audience.
It's about understanding the impact your words have on other people. Being mindful of how you come across.
It's like that quote from Maya Angelou.
Okay.
People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
That's such a good quote.
Yeah, it's a perfect illustration.
Because ultimately, communication is about building relationships.
Right.
And relationships are built on trust and respect.
Exactly.
So even when you're delivering constructive criticism or having a difficult conversation, it's so important to do it in a way that preserves the other person's dignity and fosters open dialogue.
It's about finding that balance between being direct and being kind. It's about focusing on the behavior, not the person. And framing feedback in a way that's constructive and actionable.
I think that's one of the hardest things for people to learn, especially if they're used to a more like hierarchical
command and control style of leadership.
It definitely requires a shift in mindset.
Yeah.
It's about seeing communication as a two-way street.
Right.
A collaborative process where both parties have something to contribute.
It's about listening as much as you speak and being open to different perspectives.
And being willing to admit when you're wrong. Or when you don't have all the answers. That kind of vulnerability can be incredibly powerful because it shows your team that you're human. You're not afraid to make mistakes. And you're open to learning and growing.
It's like that famous quote from Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yeah.
I never lose. I either win or learn.
I love that.
Yeah.
It perfectly encapsulates this idea of growth mindset and the importance of seeing challenges as opportunities for learning.
For sure.
And that leads us to another key point. From the Speak Like a Manager video. The importance of shared values.
You know, as we were discussing this earlier, I was thinking about how
shared values are essential not just for teams, but for any successful relationship or community. Whether it's a family or a friend group or even a society as a whole. Having that shared set of principles creates a sense of cohesion and purpose.
It's like the mortar that holds the bricks together without that shared foundation. foundation.
Yeah.
It's so easy for things to crumble under pressure.
And it's not just about having a list of values hanging on the wall.
Right.
It's about living those values.
Every single day.
Yeah, every day.
In your interactions with others.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. Because people can tell when your actions don't align with your words.
Right.
And that inconsistency erodes trust, and it undermines the entire system.
So it's about being intentional about the kind of culture you want to create.
Yes.
And then taking those consistent actions
that reinforce those values.
Yeah.
It's about leading by example and demonstrating the behaviors you want to see in others.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. And that applies not just to leaders, but to all of us.
To all of us.
In our interactions with others.
Yeah, we all have a role to play in shaping the culture of our families, our workplaces, our communities.
Absolutely.
You know, as we've been talking about this video, I've been really struck by how much wisdom is contained in it, even though it's presented in this kind of simplistic format.
I know, it's like those top 10 tips listicles.
Yeah, exactly.
That are so popular online.
They might seem superficial at first glance, but when you dig a little deeper, there's often some real nuggets of truth in there.
I completely agree.
It's a good reminder to be open to learning from a variety of sources.
Right.
Even those that might not seem particularly credible or authoritative.
At first glance.
Yeah. Like at first you might think this is just some silly YouTube video.
Right.
But it's actually...
There's some real wisdom there. Yeah, some deep insights.
Yeah. That highlights the importance of having a diverse range of experiences and perspective.
It's like that quote from Steve Jobs.
Oh, yeah?
Creativity is just connecting things.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most brilliant ideas come from making these unexpected connections.
Right, between seemingly disparate concepts.
You know, as we've been talking about leadership, communication, shared values, I've been thinking about how these principles apply not just to managers, but to all of us in our personal and professional lives.
Absolutely, whether we're leading a team, raising a family, or just interacting with our friends and neighbors.
Right.
These principles are so essential for building strong and meaningful relationships.
And it all starts with that self-awareness, recognizing our own strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
Being willing to learn and grow.
It's about being open to feedback.
Yeah.
Being willing to apologize when we make mistakes. And just constantly striving to be the best versions of ourselves. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Okay. For this part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground here.
I have.
From the importance of positive reinforcement to the power of vulnerability and shared values. Yeah. But I know there's even more to explore.
Yeah, I think there are still some gems we haven't unearthed.
In this surprisingly insightful Speak Like a Manager video.
Yeah, and I'm eager to continue this conversation.
Okay.
And see what other insights we can glean from this seemingly simple yet surprisingly profound YouTube video.
Me too. We'll be right back after a quick break to wrap up our deep dive into Speak Like a Manager. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. We're wrapping up our deep dive on Speak Like a Manager.
You know, it really is amazing how these tips that were just presented as like basic management advice have turned into this like really interesting conversation about leadership, communication.
Yeah, human nature.
Like all this stuff,
I kept thinking about how all of these different phrases and strategies, they all kind of point back to this bigger theme that wasn't really stated directly in the video.
Okay, what's that?
Which is this idea of leading by example. It's not enough to just like tell people what to do or how to behave. You have to embody those qualities yourself.
Yeah, you got to walk the walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just talk the talk.
Because people are way more likely to follow someone who like actually embodies those values
than someone who just like says the right things.
Yeah. Like think about parenting.
Yeah.
You can tell your kids to be kind and respectful all day long.
Right.
But if you're being rude to the waiter.
Yeah, if they see you gossiping about the neighbors.
Your words are going to lose their impact.
Exactly.
Kids are way more influenced by what they see than what they hear.
Yeah, and I think adults are too, honestly.
Probably.
So if you want to create that culture of respect, integrity, collaboration, you really have to model those behaviors.
It's like be the change you want to see in the world. And that applies to like the little things too.
The small everyday interactions.
Yeah, not just these grand gestures.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like being mindful of how we treat everyone.
Right. Even those tiny little moments.
Yeah, because those small acts of kindness respect integrity.
They can have this ripple effect.
It's true.
Create a more positive and supportive environment.
It's like chaos theory.
Okay.
The butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil sets off a tornado in Texas.
Our actions, no matter how small, they can really have an impact.
They can create change,
And that brings us back to authenticity, which we talked about earlier. People can really sense when someone is being genuine.
Right.
And they're much more likely to trust and follow someone who's true to themselves.
And someone who's putting on a show.
Right.
You can fool some of the people all of the time and all of the people some of the time.
Yeah.
But you can't fool all the people all the time.
Exactly.
Sooner or later, your true colors are going to come out.
And that's why it's so important to be aligned with your own values, to make sure that you're acting in ways that are consistent with your beliefs.
Because when you're living authentically, your actions naturally flow from that place.
Right.
And you're going to be way more effective in influencing other people.
It all comes together.
You know, it's funny, all this talk about leadership, communication, authenticity, it's making me think about how these principles aren't just for managers.
I agree.
They're really for everybody.
Absolutely.
We can all try to be more mindful
Yeah.
about how we interact with others.
Right. How we communicate.
How we communicate.
How we create a positive and supportive environment.
Whether it's at home, at work.
Yeah, in our communities.
Yeah.
It's really for everybody.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into Speak Like a Manager,
okay,
I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge.
All right.
We've talked about a lot of great ideas.
Yeah.
But what if you picked just one? Maybe it's expressing gratitude more often, or like being more intentional about listening.
Yeah.
Or leading by example in some small way.
I love that.
And just made a conscious effort
to
actually integrate that
today.
Yeah, into your interactions today.
Yeah, what a great challenge. I think that's a perfect way to end this episode.
Okay, awesome. All right, everyone, that's a wrap on our deep dive into Speak Like a Manager. We hope you enjoyed this surprisingly insightful exploration of communication leadership and the power of human connection. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those conversations flowing.